Hey everyone, thanks for coming back to another weather forecast video. Today we're going to be talking about that storm that's going to still potentially be coming into the United States, bringing the threat for some severe weather, tornadoes, maybe a little bit of snow as well, potentially a lot of snow. We'll be talking about that in a little bit, and also a little bit of an interaction with a tropical storm in November. I know, it's crazy. We're still talking about tropical weather. Mother Nature just needs to shut up already. Anyways, as you can see across the United States, we kind of have a big old dominating factor here. A lot of dry air being caused by a high pressure system that is over pretty much the entire eastern portion of the United States. So we're going to see some warmer temperatures there. We also got a low pressure system about to develop in this area, bringing that threat for severe weather. Then as it moves off to the north and east, we're going to be talking about that snow threat up here in the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. Also, we still got Sara down there, so we're also going to be doing a little bit of a tropical update. Not a whole lot to say, but we're going to give an update on that regardless. But yeah, if you end up enjoying this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and let's go ahead and break it down for you. Switching over to our latest GFS run here, you can see, keep your eyes down here as I move this forward. You can see that we're still generally going to have some snow in the mountains over there, and then as this pushes over to the east, eventually we're going to see a pocket of energy try to gather up here and a low pressure system spin up. Looking over to the Pacific Northwest, though, you can see that as we go into the 17th early morning, we can start to see a lot of snow and rain happen up there. Pushing this forward even more, you can see as we go into about the midnight hours here on the 18th, could have this low pressure system start to spin up, and eventually we're going to see this thing try to produce some severe weather. But let's go try to investigate what kind of severe weather we're going to get out of this storm. It's coming over to the surface base cape here. You can see that we really don't have a whole lot. This is essentially storm food, and without a lot of it, or enough of it, and these storms are going to starve, and there's certainly not enough, at least according to the GFS here. So pushing this forward, really meager amounts of storm food available. These storms are definitely starving all the way going into this 18th here at around 6 a.m. And then eventually we're going to see a little bit more of a consistent pocket of some of that storm food develop here, and might have to look out for a little bit more of a widespread severe weather event. But I think overall, even though that we have lower instability, I do think the environment is still there for the potential for some damaging winds, maybe an isolated tornado or two, and a couple bouts of hail. Speaking of tornadoes, though, let's go look at our upper level and lower level winds. So yeah, looking at our lower level winds going from early morning on the 18th into later in the day, you can see that lower level jet is only going to intensify, but our biggest pocket of moisture, keep in mind, is down in this region. So the moisture is going to be well removed. So our probably best chance for tornadoes is going, unless we start to see a better, storm food environment out in front of this thing develop near Shreveport or going into Arkansas, our biggest threat for tornadoes are probably going to be the start of this event and then eventually moving down a little bit further to the south. So I do think we might see a little bit more of an organized tornado threat going closer to like the Houston area. We could see some changes in the SPC, but regardless, even though there's not a whole lot of fuel, could still see that potential for severe weather and tornadoes. Looking at the latest SPC outlook here, you can see that there is a slight risk out here for Fort Stockton, Midland, San Angelo, Brownwood, Abilene, and Wichita Falls, and around that a 1 out of 5 for severe weather in this green area. So not a big time action-packed severe weather event, but definitely something to keep an eye on going into the late night on the 17th into the 18th, and then pushing this into the next day. This is going to be kind of the midday portions of the 18th. You can see that we do have a slight risk being indicated over here near Killeen, Waco, Dallas, Wichita Falls. This is mainly going to be for damaging winds, potentially a small chance for a spin-up tornado, but I do think we're going to see some expansions down here further to the south where most of that instability is. Could be a marginal risk, could be a slight risk, just depends on how the smaller scale factors start to build in here as we get closer to this event. Again, we still don't have any of our high resolution models in range of this storm event just yet. So this is what our storm is looking like at this point, but as it moves off to the north, we're eventually going to see this thing try to interact with some more cold air. Still a little bit far out. This is later in the night on the 18th, but we have been seeing some downtrends, at least initially, as this pushes up to the north. And how cold that air is going to be, over there near North Dakota, South Dakota. As you see, even from yesterday, we have a little bit of an uptrend here. 50s to 40s to the north. That's way too warm for a wintry snow event to happen up here. That being said, this is not the final story here. As the storm kind of pushes up to the north, you can see that eventually it does interact interact with some cooler air up in the north, and some of the models are starting to latch onto the potential of a little bit of a shortwave trough coming in on the southern side of this. That's going to help bring in more cooler temperatures further down to the south. You can see snow even makes it down into Iowa going into the 20th, and then eventually, if we switch over here to the temperatures, you can really see that that cooler air is starting to build in and filter in behind this thing. So watch what happens. As we switch this back over here to the winter future radar, you can see that this little low pressure system that kind of forms to the south of this thing comes through, tries to organize over there near the Great Lakes, and look at that, a lot more Great Lake snow effect, lake effect snow happening on the kind of southern side of the Great Lakes, northern northern Ohio, northern Indiana, going into Pennsylvania and New York, and potentially Michigan on the backside of this. All got to watch out for some snow. Now, this is still pretty far out there. We're over here at the 22nd here, so a lot of things are going to change as we go into the future. But it's definitely a little interesting thing. But let's see how consistent the models have been recently on this little shortwave trough coming through. All right, so this is the GFS on tropical tidbits. This is just going to allow us to go back into past model runs and compare and contrast what this storm has been doing. So at least on these model runs. So we're going back to another model run here, a little bit of consistency, back to another model run here, a little bit of consistency there for that snow, back another model run. We're starting to get a little bit less consistent. So looks like the last 3 to 4 model runs here have been consistent in this little shortwave trough developing, bringing in just a little bit cooler air on the backside, allowing for some snow to form over here near the Appalachians. Now pushing this off a little bit further into the future here, you can see that that lake effect snow could last for a little bit if it stays cool enough on the backside of this low pressure, still piling up snow for areas like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. So that's something we definitely got to watch out for, as sometimes these events can get pretty impactful. Now in terms of Sara, as you can see, not very impressive look on satellite. It's really interacting with Mexico quite a bit. That increased land friction is definitely going to be causing a problem. A little bit more dry air as well, which is why by the time this thing moves over the Yucatan Peninsula here, you can see we have a tropical depression, and by the time it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, we're talking about a post-tropical depression, maybe a small window here for this thing to reorganize into a depression. But again, the environment's just not that great. We do have some warmer waters in this region, but we're going to have more dry air. We're going to have more shear starting to interact with this storm, and this storm will be mainly for the couple of days that it moves off of the Yucatan Peninsula is going to be trying to reorganize that lower level center and produce more convection. If it's just too dry and too much shear, it's not going to be able to. So we're most likely going to be talking about a batch of moisture coming up into the United States from this storm. Looking at the latest ensemble tracks here, and also the are some of our main suite models as well. You can see basically all this is projecting here is that where that moisture is going to go. So we could be talking about increased rainfall rates and maybe a small tornado threat, over here near the Big Bend of Florida, or going into more central and western Florida. But yeah, all in all, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys again for continuing to tune into my videos. You guys are awesome. I do really appreciate the support that you guys give me. And yeah, make sure, if you do thank you so much. Or if you have subscribed during this video, welcome to the Fry family. And I will see you guys on the next forecast. See ya.